Alright, so this video here is to cover the process of going into more kind of low-fat eating. Something along the lines, let's say, of either Mcdougall or Ornish or the Pritikin diet, and the process. And here's one thing that can sometimes be a little tricky for people, and that's the thing that has to do with sometimes cravings. Okay, starting to eat this low-fat way and feeling like you're craving food and feeling like you're not satisfied. So this feeling of not satisfied, is it because it's a sign that maybe this way of eating isn't for you? You know, it's highly questionable. Okay, here's a few reasons why that happens. Number one, you really need to eat enough food. Okay, you're encouraged in pretty much, I think, all these diets to eat until you're satisfied, and that's a mistake people make. And in the beginning, it's a good idea to snack on a lot of vegetables when you're doing this, and you want to leave yourself. You don't want to let yourself get super hungry. Okay, you're not supposed to do that. And the thing is that when you're getting used to it, probably a lot of people will even eat as much as like 9+ times. But when I say eating, that also may include just having, like, let's say, an apple or something. Okay, so allow yourself to eat enough, because if you don't, you're going to feel unsatisfied. And I doubt that most of you, if you let yourself have an abundance of healthy, starchy food, another word for that is complex carbohydrates, and you let yourself eat that, like, brown rice, sweet potatoes, yams, even potatoes, quinoa, things like that, whole wheat pasta, whole grain pasta, and you let yourself have that, the thing is that you'll be a lot more satisfied. Okay, that's one mistake people make. Another mistake is they crave the fat in the beginning. They crave the fat, they crave the meat in the beginning, and they mistake that for that, oh, it's like that my body, that I just need meat, I just need fat. And that is a trap, and you need to be careful with that. I heard Dr. Joel Fuhrman talking about that, and he explains it really well. He calls that toxic hunger. So what it is that, you're so used to eating fat and sugar and meat, and these things create like a toxic hunger. It's, the very cravings for the fat, it means that you probably need to just sort of like take a few days to detoxify. And I think that usually takes, for most people, let's say, you want to give yourself at least 7-8 days so that you get through that hump. Okay, and it's usually not that bad for most people if they really kind of get their mind in the right place and they exercise, because exercising helps you crave healthier foods. But you need to realize that you got to be careful with that, because a lot of people will, like, let's say, start to crave, let's say meat. They crave like a hearty piece of chicken or something, and then they go and then they have the chicken and they go, oh my God, I feel so much better. This low-fat way of eating it, see, this proves that it's not for me. Okay, or oh, I gotta have like a something with a lot of cheese, maybe like a slice of pizza. I gotta have that, and then they have it and they're like, oh, I feel so much better. See, but that's a trap, because a lot of it is because you're still in that sort of like, let's say, toxic state, or you haven't detoxified that out of your system. Okay, and when you enjoy, let's say, a piece of chicken and it feels so satisfying, it's because you're still in that state. Like, let me give you an example. It's not that different from, like, if you have somebody who's like a coffee junkie and they have 11 cups of coffee, and the second day, third day after that, they're probably going to be going through caffeine withdrawal, and they're not going to feel well, and they may have headaches. And you give them, a cup of coffee, and they're going to be like, oh my God, I feel so much better now. Would you say to that person, okay, you see, that shows that you have a metabolic type, a body type, where you need to be drinking at least 8 cups of coffee, because the fact that you feel so much better now is evidence of that. No, that's nonsense. Okay, and people kind of try to do that with diet, where they try to say, well, if you felt better after the protein, it probably is evidence that you need more protein, and that you need, chicken. You definitely need to be eating meat, because that's why you're craving it so much. And the fact that you felt better shows that, that's the way you should be eating. That's not really true. I know that sort of sounds good when people say, oh, just listen to your body, and if you're craving it, it's because that's what your body's telling you. That's highly questionable. You kind of need to be a little more scientific when you do this. Okay, I'm not saying completely disregard, your body. I know that, there is a place to where, sometimes a person does need to kind of listen to their body. I'm not saying that's utter nonsense, but to a large degree, you need to also be careful with that because there are those pitfalls that I'm describing. And you kind of need to stick with the science, which is that in the beginning you probably will crave it, but it's because that, you're still kind of like detoxifying from that. Same thing like somebody that smokes cigarettes. You have somebody that's kind of like a little antsy around quitting. It's only been day 3 and you give them a cigarette. They're going to say, oh, I feel so much better now that I've had a cigarette. But you wouldn't say to that person, well, that goes to show that you needed to be a smoker. I mean, and that's essentially what's happening with the meat eating and the fat eating. So sometimes you got to give it a few days, and when you come out the other side of it, you usually come out feeling better, not craving those things. It was like that for me. I remember there were times I wanted like a piece of chicken, and had I had it, I probably would have felt real satisfied. But the thing about it is that I didn't. I hung in there with it, and like for example now, and I'm even surprised myself that I can do this. But like sometimes if I want to snack, I can literally just snack on like pieces of lettuce. And I'm not necessarily recommending that. I'm not saying that the diet is like that austere, but sometimes that's convenient. And I'm sure it's better to put some kind of dressing on it and stuff like that. And this, no one's saying you can't do that. But sometimes it's just convenient to have like a handful of like, let's say lettuce or greens or something like that with nothing, with no dressing, nothing. And I find that I can snack on that and actually be like satisfied. Because your palate starts to change and you start to be satisfied on simpler, low-calorie foods. So when you get yourself to that other side, it'll be a hell of a lot easier to lose the weight because now you're not snacking on meats and fat, which skyrocket your calories, and it'll be a hell of a lot easier to maintain, a lean body. Because if you're eating things like, vegetables and lean vegetables and complex carbohydrates, it's much harder to become overweight by eating those foods. It's extremely hard. So, okay, so I'll leave you with that, and I hope this has been helpful for you. Thanks.